Hello my friends, welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome in. My name is Ian with Out of This World Reader, and today's video is going to be my July wrap-up. And it was a big reading month for me. It was overall just another great reading month. I feel like this year in general has just been one of the best I've had overall. And I ended up getting to 10 books. That is quite a big number for me, especially as I'm kind of working my way through some summer courses. So there's just been a lot on my plate, and part of the reason that I got to so many was because they were a bunch of rereads for anticipated releases that are coming up for, so I listened to those as audiobooks to kind of refresh my memory. So I flew through those, refreshed my memory, and I'm now excited to pick up the final release for one of them, and then the second book and another one here pretty soon. But I think without further ado, let's just hop in with everything I got to this month. So these are going to be in no particular order, and we're just going to go from the top of the stack down. And the first one on the top of the stack happened to be a 5 stars, and I'm excited to continue on with this first trilogy within the realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. And this is Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book in her Farseer trilogy. And I've heard a lot of great things about the first series in the realm of the Elderlings with Fitz and just the Farseer trilogy, but I've also heard some not so good things about kind of just always being in Fitz's mind and his constant descriptions of the world. But honestly, like in the beginning, it was a bit daunting, and I was kind of worried as to how my enjoyment of the story was going to continue on throughout. But as it kind of, the story progressed, and there isn't kind of so much as a plot, it's more of a character-driven story, following Fitz as he's kind of thrown at the doorstep of Buckkeep at like the age of 6, and you follow just several years of this, his adolescence at Buckkeep after he's kind of been, the king has kind of drawn an interest into him. So it sounded a bit boring in the beginning, but it started to pick up as you kind of just see Fitz grow up and go through these different trials and tribulations that at times broke your heart. And I honestly enjoyed the constant being in Fitz's mind all the time as it kind of progressed, and it really just fully fleshed out his character in this first book, and I'm really excited to see how it continues on in the further books. Overall, like, I feel like it definitely picked up as it progressed, and towards the end it started to get, as it builds to the climax, I really enjoyed how it kind of ended and how it set it up for the rest of the series to continue. I'm really excited to see what or kind of not so much excited to see kind of what Fitz is going to go through in the further books, because I've heard that it just doesn't get any better for Fitz as it continues on within the Farseer trilogy, as well as the other kind of series and trilogies within the realm of the Elderlings following Fitz. And it's a completed series. I think the whole realm of the Elderlings is now complete, and I just can't wait to get into more Robin Hobb, especially within the Farseer trilogy. I think it's Royal Assassin is actually on my August TBR, and I'm hoping to pick it up here pretty soon. So overall, this was a really great first installment within the realm of the Elderlings, and I can't wait to continue on. And then we had somewhat of a little bit of a disappointment. I was kind of expecting quite a bit from this after absolutely loving the 2 Sandman collections that Neil Gaiman has. So I found this at my used bookstore for pretty cheap, so I thought I would pick it up. It sounded interesting, and there was Stardust, and honestly, I was expecting quite a bit more from it. I overall enjoyed it. I ended up giving it this 4 stars, but I felt like the ending was kind of just a bit rushed, or I felt like it was missing quite a bit, because it kind of just all finished off. Like, I felt like everything that kind of occurred throughout this first book was all leading up towards this kind of climactic ending, but then it kind of just all finished off. And I did enjoy the ending, but I still, like, it felt like it was missing some pieces and just a little bit more from that ending. Overall, I enjoyed kind of the concepts and things, the world building that was kind of involved with this. But still, like, there was several parts that I was really hoping more from and more fleshing out, but I kind of would skip over it. But I've heard from a lot of people that I've kind of talked to that this is their least favorite Neil Gaiman, and I will be continuing on with more Neil Gaiman in the future, because I just really enjoyed the Sandman and this in general. So I'm really excited to get into like Nevermore, Coraline, and just a bunch more that sound really interesting as well. So overall, it wasn't too bad, and I'm really hoping to get to the movie here pretty soon, the movie adaptation, because I found out that it has Robert De Niro in it. So I'm very interested to see how he kind of will play a role in this movie. So here pretty soon, I'm really hoping to find another copy of just another Neil Gaiman work and check that out, as well as kind of, I'm really anticipating the Sandman movie adaptation, or the TV series, the adaptation that Netflix is going. So we'll see what comes in the future for Neil Gaiman. I'm really excited to get into more in the future. One of the rereads I got to this month, I'm really glad that I reread it, because I forgot quite a bit. Like I would have kind of struggled if I picked up the second book, The Olander Sword, and I would have kind of struggled to kind of get a grasp on what happened in the first book. So rereading it was a must for me, and that was the Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I really enjoy this kind of world that she has kind of already created, and the world building that she kind of addressed in this first book, with kind of like, it's almost got like this dark forest vibe, as well as kind of just this empire that has constant enemies, and there's all this scheming going on in the background, and just a different setting as to kind of what I'm used to and what I've read in some of these other books from this month, as well as in the past. And I really enjoyed this kind of new perspective. And all the perspectives in here are really intriguing as well. They all come from like different backgrounds, and they're all kind of got their own kind of schemes in the back, like that they want to accomplish, and seeing them kind of do those in the shadows to kind of get what they want, but also kind of moving towards something in the future. Like I just really enjoyed what this book had going for it, and what it's kind of got going for it in the future within the second book. I enjoyed like the magic. It was a bit confusing my first time that I read this, but listening to this as an audiobook kind of helped me with that a lot better, and I can't wait to pick up this second book here pretty soon. This next book is going to be my book of the month, and it's crazy because the first in this trilogy got my book of the month last month, and this is Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie, which is the second book in the First Law trilogy. I absolutely loved the blade itself and the character development and the characters in general through that first book, and it really kind of expanded in the second book, and you got more of the plot that was kind of missing in the first book, as well as kind of giving you more background about the three main characters, Clockta, Logan, and Jezzel, but as well as kind of giving more context about like West and Pharaoh and a ton of other different characters, like the Name Men with Dogmen and Black Daw, and so there was just a bunch more that I really enjoyed in this one. I feel like it took a giant step up, in my opinion, from the first book. Like I still loved the blade itself. That got 5 stars, and this is going to get 5 stars as well. I love like the little journey that they went on, and kind of the little bit of character development that these characters took in the second book, as well as kind of like a little bit of military campaigning and more political scheming, political intrigue with like Clockta. So there was just a lot going on with this book, and I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait. I'm actually about almost 200 pages within Last Argument of Kings. Absolutely loving that as well, so I have a feeling that that will get 5 stars as well, and this series will kind of go down as one of already as one of my top 10 favorite of all time. I really love how kind of Joe Abercrombie, like his dark humor that he comes in here, and kind of how he incorporates curse words into like the dialogue, and the dialogue just fits so perfectly for each of these characters, and it like the writing and the prose changes with each perspective. Like if you are with the Named Men or the Northmen with like Dogmen in them, and kind of the way that they talk and the way that they kind of think is different from like Jezzel, or someone who's kind of been raised in the Empire, or the Union, who has been kind of raised in the Union. You definitely see those differences, and it also adds to kind of like the character development and really getting to know and fully fleshing out these characters. It is some of the best character work that I've ever seen, and it is right there with Robin Hobb with Fitz, and I'm really excited to see how Fitz kind of expands in the second book. And while it isn't just as focused on the characters here, like there's just a little bit of plot in there as well that just makes it an overall like really great series, and that's probably why it's going to go down as one of my favorites of all time. And I'm not gonna lie, like some of these characters, while they're pretty grim and they're not the best of people, I'm rooting for them at all times, and I want the best for them, as bad as that sounds. And I'm I'm really scared for this final book to see how it kind of ends. Like the stakes are pretty high in this final book, and already it's starting to kick off with a bang, and I think it's going to continue on through that last book, The Last Argument of Kings. 5 stars, book of the month, and I definitely recommend this trilogy if you haven't yet, and I can't wait to continue on with Joe Abercrombie's works in the future. And the other 2 rereads that I did, I also listened to an audiobook, and they both got 5 stars. This series is probably one, if not my favorite YA fantasy of all time. And the first one that I read was Fireborne by Rosaria Munda, which is the first book in the Aurelian cycle. And after I finished this, I immediately picked up Flamefall, which is the second book, because of how much I loved the first book and getting back into this world, all the characters and stuff like that. But rereading it, there's so much that I missed, because it's been a couple years since I've read this first book, so it was needed, especially that second book, because I kind of forgot a little bit about the ending and where it was kind of setting up. So I needed to reread before the third and final book, Fury Song, comes out here pretty soon, actually. I think it might be out by the time this video goes up. These 2 characters, Annie and Lee, are some of my favorite of all time, and in Flamefall you also get introduced to a new perspective, Griff, and he also adds just a whole new element and side of kind of a perspective to this war, this kind of looming in this book, and kind of how it progresses in the second book. There's so much that I missed, and so much that was included that I kind of didn't understand when I read this the first time with Plato's Republic. And I feel like this series can be picked up by just anybody, not just kind of young adults. I'm considered an adult. I don't know if that's true or not, but I love this just as much as if I would have picked it up as kind of when I was 16 or around that age that is considered young adult now. And each book kind of ups the stakes, and Rosaria Munda does not hold back on punches for a YA series. And while there is the tropes that you kind of expect from YA, I feel like she takes a different spin on it. At times, even upon reread, I expected to go this one way, but she'll take it a different way, and that's what makes it so special and stands out among all the other kind of YA books that I've ever read. So if you haven't picked this up yet, it is the perfect time to get started with it and just binge it all, because the final book, Fury Song, comes out this month. This next one was actually one of my most anticipated releases, and while it kind of was a bit of a letdown, it still got 4 stars. I just, compared to Dark Matter and Recursion and Summer Frost, that little short story, it was it wasn't so much as a step down, it just wasn't as good in my opinion as those other 3. Because those other 3, especially Summer Frost, that really freaked me out. But this one was Upgrade by Blake Crouch. This one kind of focuses on the human genome, altering genes that kind of make superhumans in a sense. And this almost had a feel at the Jason Bourne kind of movie or something like that. And I didn't enjoy it as much. For some reason, I just didn't feel like the stakes were as high as in the other books. It doesn't make sense because of how things progress in this book. It definitely kicked off with a bang and how it kind of progressed, but then it got to a point where it was just he was just unstoppable, Logan Ramsey, and I really didn't enjoy how it kind of progressed towards the end. I enjoyed all the topics that he kind of addressed and the ideas that he has, and which is why it kind of got 4 stars, and how he kind of included climate change and just all the other kind of things that might happen to this world if we do not change our ways, and how all that kind of this world that he has kind of envisioned played into how we're altering genes and everything like that, and the science involved with that. I always enjoy kind of the science topics, and here in all of his other books, and you can really see that he's kind of he did his research before writing this, and I really enjoyed that. So it's kind of the topics, it wasn't as good in my opinion as his other 2, but it still got 4 stars. It wasn't a new favorite, and I can't wait to see what Blake Crouch comes out in the future. If you're a big fan of Blake Crouch, I would definitely recommend this. But if you haven't picked up anything by him yet, I would definitely start with Dark Matter or Recursion. Probably Dark Matter, because that is my favorite of his. Summer Frost is also really short, and I enjoyed that as well. It's kind of got AI taking over the world, which absolutely freaks me out. But I'm very curious to see what Blade Crouch kind of comes out in the future, because it's kind of got alternate dimensions, our parallel universes, kind of a memory, genomes, AI, so we'll see what he's got planned next. Hopefully he's got a book coming out here pretty soon, because I'll probably read anything that he kind of comes out with in the future. And then we have kind of like a close second for Book of the Month, and it's by the GOAT of fantasy, one of the pillars of the fantasy genre, and that's The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is really special. I really enjoyed just the journey that the Bilbo and these hobbits go on. And now Bilbo is kind of put on this unexpected journey. I think it's funny. I think that's actually the first title for the first Hobbit movie, and I can't wait to dive into the movies after completing like the whole. Just after completing like the whole Lord of the Rings. But I really enjoyed how it kind of progressed and how singing was kind of involved in it. And just his prose is really beautiful in this first book, and I have a feeling that that's going to change in the Lord of the Rings with kind of like the Fellowship of the Ring. I'm really excited to pick that up here pretty soon. But this, while it did feel pretty younger, like a middle grade, it definitely didn't feel like some of the middle grade that I've read. And I still really enjoyed this, like as an adult. And I loved how kind of the little bit of world building that we got in this kind of little corner of Middle Earth, and seeing how it's kind of developing and how it's probably going to continue on in the future with like the goblins and the dwarves, the elves, and just the battle of 5 armies at the end at the Lonely Mountain. Schmaug. I just really love this. And thinking about it now, like there might be a tie for Book of the Month, because I just like when this was wrote and how at the age that it's kind of with technology and stuff like that, I almost wonder like what J.R.R. Tolkien's writing could have been like if like he had the technology that we have today, like TV and just everything else, and the visuals that he kind of creates in this first book, without having like the privileges that we have today. Like I could go on and on about it, just where this is planned, what this is kind of hinted at within Middle Earth, and I just can't wait to get into more in the future. We're getting to the last 2, and this one I listened to is an audiobook because it was on my summer TBR. I was expecting there to be a little bit of romance in it, but there was absolutely none. It's a bit heartbreaking. And that was Looking for Alaska by John Green. I don't know if all of John Green's books are pretty heartbreaking. Hoping to pick up Paper Towns this month. Could be completely wrong, because I'm trying to kind of get some help for my writing. So we'll see how that one goes. I know The Fault in Our Stars is pretty heartbreaking as well. So I don't know if that's just the way all John Green books are. I overall enjoyed this. Like I enjoyed kind of the humor and kind of the dynamics between a small friend group, but there's also some problems that I had with it. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I'm excited to continue on with John Green in the future. But I probably should have started with a different book, because this didn't give me the best taste, I have a feeling. But I have a feeling that there's other books will kind of take a step up, and I can't wait to get to those. And the final book that I got to this month was Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio, which is the first book in the Sun Eater trilogy. And this was another one that I was kind of a bit iffy on. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I thought that the beginning was absolutely outstanding, and so was the ending. And I'm very excited to continue on with the series, because from things I've heard and how the ending kind of ended in this one, that is going to progress just with each book and kind of get better as it goes along. But the middle chunk in this was a bit of a slog at times. Like I enjoyed the world building and just how it kind of expanded on this little world, as well as kind of the universe and what's going on with the Empire and what the different kind of powers in play and all that. But at times, like it was just it's hard to kind of continue reading on it. It is a chunky book. I've heard this compared to kind of Dune, and I can definitely see like the Dune comparisons, but it definitely stands out on its own. Also, I've heard it compared to The Name of the Wind, and I haven't read that yet. I have it, and I'm hoping to pick it up here pretty soon. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it definitely feels like a chronicle kind of retelling his tale. And I really am excited to see how it kind of will progress in the further books, because he is kind of the crimes that he's committed and the things he's known for. He's kind of the Sun Eater, destroying a star. There's a whole bunch of things, controversy around Hadrian, and I'm really excited to see how that will kind of progress in the further books. But overall, like, I was a bit bummed by that middle part, and I will be continuing on. I'm planning on continuing on here in the future. I will be kind of splitting it between The Expanse and this book, with two kind of space operas going at the same time. So if you've read the rest of the series, please let me know your opinion on it, because I do really want to continue on with it, but it's not so much as a high priority as I was kind of expecting. But overall, we'll see how it goes in the future. But those were all the books that I got to this month. It was just a great month of reading overall, and I can't wait to see what August brings forth. But that is going to be all from me today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing so you never miss out on another adventure. And it's time for Ellie to come on here and first wish you all to have a splendid day. But she also says that adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time. Bye.